Welcome, everyone. The Reverend Ian Macritchie is unable to be with us today due to family circumstances and sends his apologies. Ian was a significant figure in James's life, and it was Ian that actually married James and Barbara. It was also Ian who gave words to us at the funerals of our dad, our Uncle Donnie, and our granny. While I'm no minister, I hope you will bear with me whilst I try and convey some words which Ian has kindly put together for me. Whilst neither James or myself were particularly religious, I found the words below a comfort and hope they will also be a comfort to others today. There are three things that will last forever: our faith, our hope, and our love. And the greatest of these is always love. My friends, welcome to a place where none of us wants to be. Indeed, we can hardly believe that we are here now doing this for James, whom we knew so well and loved so dearly as a bright, lively, and loving presence amongst us. Welcome to those who gather here in this space and to all those who are able to be part of this service through the live link broadcast. Although physically distanced at this time and needing to express our care for one another through distance rather than through closeness, all of us share in this loss and gather today online or in person because James touched our lives with love, friendship, unique humor, practical care, and kindness. Some of us come with big questions about life and death and love, and there appear to be no easy answers. Some of us come in anger that a life so young and with so much still to give has been taken from us. Some of us come, in spite of all these things, wanting to remember celebrate James with love and to smile and even to laugh at these good memories. All of us come wanting to assure one another of commitment to one another as close family and friends, and especially to offer to Babs and to Annie our ongoing love and support today and in the days and weeks ahead. So let us come together now in a moment of mindful awareness of all these things. We gather now in the presence of love that made us and surrounds us at all times before we were born and after we die. We come with all the thoughts and feelings awakened in us by the death of James, whom we knew and loved well. We come with our questions and our doubts, with our faith and our hopes, and especially we come with love, which will last forever. Whatever we are thinking and whatever we are feeling, help us to find comfort in good and glorious memories of James and in the love that is still there to be felt and shared in the family and in the community that James himself loved so much. Amen. I know that some of us here would like to share memories of James. Can I ask Ollie to come up and say a few words?
James and I go back a long way. We met at the age of 16 when he turned up to live and work in Lochcarron. And so began a true friendship that was to last nearly 37 years. He was indeed my very best friend. And as with any true friendship, I got the best and worst of Jamesy. He certainly kept me on my toes over the years. He was always getting into some sort of mischief that I had to get him out of. At times I felt like I was his minder. Though the years of our friendship grew, as did our families. In latter years, we spent some very memorable, good times together. He was best man at mine and Claire's wedding, and I was his when he married Babs. We even got married in the same year. James was part of our family, as Babs and Annie will continue to be. James, my friend, together we laughed, we cried, we toiled, we partied. There was no one like you. You've left a big hole in my heart. But I know one day I will see you again. Rest in peace, my dear friend. Here's one for the road. Sláinte.
The tragic suddenness with which James was taken from us all has been a resonating shock for everyone. But conjure him up in your mind's eye, and I guarantee your features will develop a smile, as your first thoughts will be of something about him that makes you laugh, or you just feel a general affection towards him. His legacy may also be the greatest of them all. Whenever he is spoken of, it is full of funny stories of his exploits. And underneath the words, there is a great feeling of love for him and recognition of all the kindnesses he performed. Always generous, always considerate. Although, if you tried to thank him, he would generally become flustered and attempt to say something derogatory. A thing which he was famous for, and he was never taken serious when he had professed a belligerent response. To define James, first thing, family. James was very much a family person. For the last 20 and 6 years, respectively, Barbara and Annie have been the most important and loved things in his life. He has also stayed very close to his mum, his dad when he was alive, John, Alan, Irene, and all the other relatives of whom he was inordinately proud, and would relay their news at any given opportunity. Yes, I'm afraid that we know most of your secrets, as he did have a penchant for gossip and occasional embellishment. Christmas, summer barbecues, and many other celebrations were great events in James's life. His family would be brought over to Loch Carron to join with his friends in magnificent spreads. And James, always being the perfect host, ensured that food was abundant, and glasses in particular were regularly topped up, as there was always a vast supply of wine. As many of us recall, the effort he put into these events frequently left him very tired, and he would need to retire to bed for a rest while the rest of us just carried on. James's family extended beyond blood relations. Living in Loch Carron became a wonderful experience for this young man. It is a small community, and in many ways, like living in a large extended family. A friend pointed out to me the other day that in James's case, he became parts of several different families. This was very true, because arriving in Loch Carron at the age of 16, he was semi-adopted by many households and was often at different dinner tables, being included as just one more family member. Also, he shared holidays and time away on various trips with one group or another. He maintained these relationships throughout his entire life. As he grew older and his friends began to have their own families, he became an honorary uncle and was much loved by the new younger generation. He was protective of them and would often appear with a sledge in the winter, or they would be taken fishing or shooting in the summer. And a great favourite of his was to entice them into a game of cards and relieve them of any pocket money they may have had. However, this was always reversed in one fashion or another, generally with a bonus. Kindness, considerate, giving. James had these skills off to a fine art. He made time for everyone, and I'm sure that all those who are listening to this today will have memories of him appearing with some gift or other. A week or so before he died, I was chatting with an old friend. As we spoke, James came into the conversation, and she told me that on Boxing Day, there'd been a knock at the door, and on opening it, there was Half Pint, proffering a foil-covered dinner plate, which he handed over, smiled, walked away. On opening it, she found a roast goose dinner. Multiply this out by many hundreds over the years, and you get the general picture. James would offer his advice as well to many untroubled occasions. This was generally very direct, possibly bordering on offensive, but also extremely honest and accurate. When someone he cared for was in trouble, he would never be far away. He gave even at the very end, donating various organs. Bits of them now live on in other people, and he's given them their lives back. Wow, to me that is some accolade. Humour. Yes, humour was a very big part of James's character. And if when his name is mentioned in conversation, you can guarantee an involuntary smile from the person you are talking to. And stories of his exploits would always follow. There was and is always a deep affection when he is being discussed. James's stories are legendary wherever you go and whoever you talk to. They're a currency in themselves, being traded, shared and passed on by many, always accompanied by laughter. I cannot finish these words without some things that were in fact to his detriment. The big one being his total lack of having any sense of direction. This I do believe is a Macritchie trait. Unless he was heading for home and bed. That was different, always found his way. The Inches roundabout always remained a constant mystery to him, as he would drive round it several times while trying to make a decision about which exit to take. Ollie once described it like being in a spin dryer going round and round. One occasion when returning home to Lochcarron, he found himself heading to Ullapool instead. Also, I think James is the only person I know who has got lost on the A9 between Perth and Inverness. Being around James on a shooting expedition was akin to being in a war zone, as he worked on the maxim of if you pull the trigger often enough and wave the barrel around, you're bound to bag something. I personally used to hide behind a rock when he did this. Loving and loved. James, the legacy you've left for us all. Wherever you may be, James, the people in this room, and many hundreds who will be with us on a web link, I know I can speak for all of us when I say that we love you. And by existing in our lives, you've made them so much richer. And for this we thank you. Bless you, James. I can also imagine your response, but I think we could leave that there. So thank you again from us all, James. And do try not to wreak too much havoc wherever you may be now. Just remember what we've always told you, play nicely. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ollie. Thank you, John. James, myself, Alan, Irene, we grew up in Malaysia, and I always felt we were a very close family. Mum, my late dad. But James had this ability to create family wherever he went. Most significant, obviously, Lochcarron, where anytime Alan, myself, Irene went to Lochcarron, Mum, we were always received really warmly by everyone in the village. And it seemed that James had either upset or done a good deed for almost everyone in Lochcarron. So I think this is reflected in the recollections from John and Ollie. Thank you for that. My sister Irene's not here today, so she asked me to read some words out from her from the States. This is from Irene. James was my younger brother. He was such a character, always joking, sometimes difficult and grumpy, but to everyone that knew him, he had a soft and caring heart and he loved his family and friends. Babs recently said she coined this phrase to describe him, affectionately obnoxious. We all knew he would go out of his way to be obnoxious at times, but we also know he was generous to a fault, even in death. I live a long way away, but when we talk on the phone or video chat, it always felt as if I never left. He would always start off teasing me as usual, but what he wanted to know was I okay? Once he knew I was, the call was short-lived. Unless Babs or Annie was also on, James wasn't one to talk on the phone. James was a deep thinker and loved deeply, but he did not always share his emotions. The loss of our dad and his beloved daughter affected him deeply, and sometimes I wonder if he ever got over it. But I do know that Babs and Annie was his sunshine and his life. You could not help but see the love and joy when he talked about them. Babs, I am forever grateful to you for loving my brother, and you made his life and him better. I'm not able to be there for his funeral because of this pandemic, although I'm there in spirit and I'm listening and watching at this time. But God willing, I'll be there for the celebration of his life later this year. My brother Alan and I had the same vision of him. He's in a big, beautiful house, and there with him is our dad, Granny, Uncle Donnie and Atalia. And there are also other people with him that I don't know that have gone on before, but he's happy and laughing and joking as usual. And I picture him with a fishing rod in his hand, as we all know his greatest love, other than his family and friends, was fishing. James, I love you and will always miss you, but I will see you again. That's from my sister Irene in the States. The Macritchies, including James, sometimes especially James, we've got a really good relationship with our cousins. And Ian, Alistair, Duncan, loved them very much. Ian sent this email from South Africa in Johannesburg, and he wanted me to read it out. Ian remembers introducing his cousin James to the art of fishing. It began with fishing for crabs, using limpets for bait, and progressed to fishing for brown trout in the burn, using hazel twigs for rods. It soon became apparent that James's skill at this art was overtaking Ian's. James, as we know, became a keen, passionate, and able fisherman. But Ian still takes some pleasure from the knowledge that he introduced him to fishing in the first instance. Babs, would you like to?
My goodness, so many memories. If left up here, I could ramble on for hours. James and I were together for 20 years. Almost half of my life. It doesn't seem that long. And those first 10 years, oh my goodness, we had such good times, so many memories. I just keep remembering the afternoon that picking him up from the pub, we had to stop in the shop. And I told him to stay in the car, but no, he wanted to get out and walked into the shop. Mrs. McPherson, my previous employer, was there, and he bit Mo on the bum. He was the only person I knew that could get away with things like that. And everybody loved him, although I think Mo got him back at his blackening. The last 10 years were different. And at times difficult. But I loved our days together. I loved days, our Diabeg days. So many Diabeg days fishing for mackerel, going up to the burn, and he would always tell that story of catching the trout in the pool where the bridge was. I love walking around the village on beautiful sunny days and visiting people, inevitably ending up in the pub, I think, but so many memories, too many to count, too many to relay. One of the things that kind of punctuated my life with James together was with my profession, and somehow I have come to be reading the Dragonfly story this afternoon, and this was all Ian Macritchie. But it seems fitting. Down below the surface of a quiet pond lived a little colony of water bugs. They were a happy colony, living far away from the sun. For many months they were very busy scurrying over the soft mud on the bottom of the pond. They did notice that every once in a while one of their colonies seemed to lose interest in what they were doing. Clinging to a stem of a pond lily, they would gradually move out of sight and would be seen no more. "Look," said one of the water bugs to another. "One of us is climbing up the lily stalk. Where do you think he is going?" Up, up, up it slowly went, and even as they watched, the water bug disappeared from sight. Its friends waited and waited, but it didn't return. "That's funny," said one bug to another. "Where do you suppose he went?" No one had an answer. They were greatly puzzled. Finally, one of the water bugs, a leader in the group, gathered his friends together. "I have an idea. The next one of us who climbs up the lily stalk must come back and tell us where he or she went and why." One spring day, not long after, the very water bug who had suggested the plan found himself climbing up the lily stalk. Up, up, up he went. Before he knew what was happening, he had broken through the surface of the water and had fallen onto the broad green lily pad above. He was very tired, and there he fell asleep in the warm sunshine. When he awoke, he looked about with surprise. He couldn't believe what he saw. A change had come over his body. His movement revealed 4 silver wings and a long tail. Even as he struggled, he felt an impulse to move his wings. The warmth of the sun soon dried the moisture from his new body. He moved his wings again and suddenly found himself up above the water. He had become a dragonfly. Swooping and dipping in great curves, he flew through the air. He felt exhilarated in the new atmosphere. By and by, the new dragonfly lighted happily on the lily pad to rest. There it was that he chanced to look below the bottom of the pond. He was right above his old friends, the water bugs. They were scurrying around just as he had been doing some time before. The dragonfly remembered that what he had said was that the next one of us who climbs up the lily stalk will come back and tell where he or she went and why. Without thinking, the dragonfly started down, and he hit the surface of the water and bounced away. Now that he was a dragonfly, he could no longer go into the water. "I can't return," he realized, "but I can wait up here until they become dragonflies too. Then they'll understand for themselves what has happened to me and where I went." And the dragonfly winged off happily into its wonderful new world of sun and air and light.
Thank you, Babs. I know he loved you and Annie so much. This is a reading that Ian put down for me, which I thought the words were comforting. called On the Death of the Beloved. Though we need to weep your loss, you dwell in that safe place in our hearts where no storm or night or pain can reach you. Your love was like the dawn, brightening over our lives, awakening beneath the dark a further adventure of colour. The sound of your voice found for us a new music that brightened everything. Whatever you unfolded in your gaze quickened in the joy of its being. You placed smiles like flowers on the altar of the heart. Your mind always sparkled with wonder at things. Though your days here were brief, your spirit was live, awake, complete. We look towards each other no longer from the old distance of our names. Now you dwell inside the rhythm of breath, as close to us as we are to ourselves. Though we cannot see you with outward eyes, we know our soul's gaze is upon your face, smiling back at us from everything to which we bring our best refinement. Let us not look for you only in memory, where we would grow lonely without you. You'd want us to find you in presence, beside us when beauty brightens, when kindness glows. And music echoes eternal tones when orchids brighten the earth. Darkest winter has turned to spring. May this dark grief flower with hope. In every heart that loves you, may you continue to inspire us, to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage and love. Until we see your beautiful face again in that land where there is no more separation, where all tears will be wiped from our mind, and where we will never lose you again. Before I read the closing blessing, because this would normally be done at the graveside, with the live stream that's on today, on behalf of Babs and the family, I would like to say thank you all for the expressions of sympathy and support offered over the past few days. With the current restrictions preventing large gatherings, the family would hope to have a proper celebration of James's life at a later date in the year once the pandemic restrictions are over. Would the congregation please stand for the closing blessing? And now may time tenderly heal all of your sorrows. May friends gently ease all of your pain. May peace softly replace heartache. May the clear brightness of the fresh dawn enter into your being, bringing new faith, new hope, and new love. May the courage of the morning's dawning, the strength of the everlasting hills, and the peace of the evening ending at the riverside or loch shore be yours. May the love of friends and family and the strength of community sustain you and abide you with this day and evermore. And until we meet again, may God hold you safely in the palm of his hand. Amen.